That?
You've got a pyramid there on your chart.
Yeah, I was just looking for areas that could be traded from. It's not probably not the cleanest it's not the cleanest chart, so I will switch it. I'll switch it out for everybody in a bit. But it's quite useful for me. Um, just trying to find sort of like the turning points, which is really what gave me yesterday's point as well. Um, so, good morning, everybody. To start with, we are live on YouTube, and welcome to Learn to Trade live and free with Ash and Jeff. Yesterday's trade, you were in at the high up here. You should have been triggered right into the pip at the high, and the market did do its job and
Yeah,
fallen
nice
right
one,
away.
mate.
Yeah, it was
Beautiful.
a good one yesterday. Bit of a
I've got to say, it's a breath of fresh air. Haven't been a terribly easy market to trade.
no, it has been a tricky one, but yeah, just say it was a decent one yesterday and a decent fall. I would encourage you to take something off the table here. I mean, what we got really at this point on the longer term time frames is an area that may well stick out and be supported. So this is where we sit, and we're right on top of that area right now. Not the
It's a
not
heck
the
of an M topping pattern, if that's
yeah, it
true.
really is. You
Wow.
know what? And I'm really glad you said that, because I was looking at this chart and trying to think what kind of pattern it is, and it is that, isn't it? You got the kind of peak up here, it comes
Sure is.
down, gives us another peak. It's a classic, really classic M
Corker.
topping pattern. Um, which does suggest some significant downside, certainly on a technical basis. I guess the neckline is probably somewhere around there, but you know, you could say that it's probably there. Actually, I think this bar is a little bit of a curveball, because that was the Iran bar. So probably need to discount that way. I mean, you wouldn't discount the price for sure. And actually, down here, there's monthly pivots, which would be a more interesting spot than this low to aim for. But as the M topping pattern goes, I quite like that. And what's that like? It's not that's not tight enough to use, but you could certainly you could use the measured move on that probably to get some kind of assumption of how far this comes to before it turns. Let's just use this as our measuring tool here. 73.68, 73.70, something like that. Let's just bring this up onto a longer term time frame and see what's there. Yeah, it's this area down here, mate. That's what a breakdown of this zone would suggest. Does it come down today? Not so sure, to be honest. We got Mario Lagarde out later on, haven't we? Speaking,
We do.
which wouldn't
Would
suggest.
you say Mario Lagarde?
Oh, sorry, Mario Lagarde. um, yeah, she's out later on speaking. Christine Lagarde, of course. Interesting stuff from the
Depends.
pound yesterday, and really the FTSE's drop is probably got more to do with the pound than anything else. But looking across the board, we've got gold easing back so far today. The S and
You want to
P.
set this pound trade
Oh, let's set
for
it up, mate. Yeah,
utilization?
sorry, I always
Yep.
forget
All
that.
right. It's worth forgetting, right? Recently.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a tough. Jeez, just astonishing, really. I wouldn't have picked it.
Okay. I have made a change, and this is the result of a little bit of research. And yesterday's was a kind of rubber stamp on that. Had we had a 10 pip, uh, pardon me, stopgap, in other words, if we use 10 pips below our low, then we wouldn't have been triggered into that yesterday until we got to here, when we would have been triggered in, and what a different result that would have been. So let's trial with that for a while. And guys, don't forget we are still in beta mode on this. Although I'm trading it, we are still in beta mode.
Oh, I see what you mean. So because with the short, you don't have the 10 pip gap.
That's right.
I
So
see.
I've been using 5.
I see.
So what I'm going to do now is use 10 on the downside and 15 on the upside.
Okay.
So today's entry is for the long. Where are we? Why am I doing that when I can just use the candle? The long is 131.62. So 1.3162 is the long entry. The short entry is 1.3119, and vice versa. If you want to follow this, or if you haven't completely lost your marbles on this trade yet, 1.3119 is the short entry, and 1.3162. Sorry, 62. Yes, is the stop loss on that. Okie doke, so that is the trade. Again, disaster yesterday. As I said, this was the bar, this one from memory. Let's get rid of this thing here. It's a very big control panel that gets in my way all the time. Yes, that was the bar. So we were triggered in with our 5 pip rule. Had we had a 10 pip rule, we wouldn't have been triggered in, and as I said, we would have got triggered into the long about here somewhere and got all of that cash instead of donating some more to the broker. And you know what I think of donating to the brokers? We don't like to do that. So there we go. We've added a new filter, or we'll call it a filter, and we'll see how that goes. Mate, I don't have a trade to get into at the moment, but what I do have is firm fixed opinion. Those of you who were following my Aussie Kiwi trade, and I hope you didn't trade it, I got stopped out of that this morning with the Aussie news, which was very pleasant as far as Aussie unemployment numbers are concerned. Another drop in the Aussie unemployment rate down to 5.1, and jobs created were up in the 22,000s or something, as I recall. But that was enough to send the Aussie on a spiral towards the monthly pivot, where it is almost having another look. Look, unemployment figure is a very strong indicator. And this now is put me into a very interesting scenario where I'm still bearish the cross, but it's very, very difficult to ignore that unemployment figure. And what I guess could trump that is this coronavirus thing. I can't believe it. If this continues to escalate, the market's going to run to safe havens again, and Aussie is definitely not a safe haven currency. So I've got to maintain the bearish outlook, I think. But what I need to see is potentially a false break or something of that nature. Can't really use that. So we've got to come back to here. So I need to see either a false break of, well, let's say monthly pivot or the trade line or something of that nature, before we can actually return into the short court, if you like. Then when I have a look at this from a technical point of view, what I see is a clear double bottom here on the bottom of our range and a higher low. So, a break above here and a retest of that, you've probably got to be thinking this can go long. But, gee whiz, this is why it's so tough at the moment, I think, with the scare that we've got. And it's not only the coronavirus, but it's potentially, I don't know about Trump's impeachment. I'm not sure what effect that's actually going to have, but it all puts fear into the market. The trade wars, which supposedly have quietened down. What else is going on? Iran, throw it all into the mix, and there's got to be some uncertainty going on, and if not fear in the market. And I think the trade that Ash got into yesterday on the FTSE and all the pardon me, all the equities markets have had a tumble, potentially on the back of that scare. But you know, and that's my dilemma. Can I still be thinking along the Aussie even with this good news? And I think the answer is no, I can't right now. So I guess I'm waiting on an opportunity to ignore those good numbers coming out of Australia today and look for any opportunity to sell this rally. And that won't mean just as a scalp off the monthly pivot. It will have to be something a little bit better than that. But I'm on full alert to resume my bearishness. This is Aussie Kiwi, of course. But the Aussie's in the same boat. Aussie yen's in the same boat. The rally that we've had this morning almost wiped out in a flash. But now we've had another one. And now we've got a lower high. Goodness gracious. Now we've got a higher low. It's all over the place like the proverbial mad woman's breakfast. And again, you're seeing that here with the break back above this trade line here. That's probably tradable for me under different circumstances. The circumstances that prevent me from going long here would be the weekly pivot dead ahead with a poor risk reward ratio. I just don't know how I'm going to find a way back into this unless we do get a false break of something. Could well be this trade line is coming through here. So if we duck back underneath here and then retested that from the bottom side, so let me extend that and show you what that might look like. So something like this. Well, let's use that line. I think it's a bit thick, but anyway, if we were to come down here now, maybe test the daily pivot and then retest this trade line here, I think that would get me interested to play a short, but gee, there's not much space here to take profit either. So your reward to risk is going to be fairly poor there as well. Are there better options? I think there are, because the Aussie is a little bit now on the 50-50 side because of the good news versus the bad news. So let's go to the pound, the unbelievable pound, and compare it to the Kiwi, shall we? The Kiwi, we've had a nice whisper out of Kiwi land that the Kiwi can rally. That's pretty good news. And well, I've got a definite idea on the pound that looks like this. Let's go to the pound US dollar. Pound US dollar. There we go. I'm continually trying to get this control panel out of the way. So pound US dollar is clearly for mine at a resistance level now, and that resistance level is maybe not as clear cut on that chart as I think. Maybe it's up a little bit higher, pretty much where our entry is for the long. So around about the 130, 150 mark or thereabouts. But we're very, very close to it. So, and even if we got to the monthly pivot here, I think there's probably a short to be had. Like this trade line, this is pretty gorgeous. And I think we'll be back here in the not too distant future. So that is my bias on the pound, which leads me back to, okay, let's trade my bias versus something I think can rally, and that lands me with pound Kiwi. Now with pound Kiwi, we've also got a little bit of room to the upside, in my humble opinion, probably to here. That line's very, very clear, that resistance area. So, and it's got a confluence with the top of this channel as well. So I think that's probably where we're headed, maybe around the $2 mark. But I don't know that we can get through $2. So it's there that I'll be looking for shorts on this cross pound Kiwi. At the moment, there's nothing showing on that chart, the daily chart, but the 4-hour chart. Well, not but the 4-hour chart is probably just about the same. But if we got above here and came back underneath it, and I don't normally use this as a trend line or a trade line or a tradable line, but if we were to sneak back underneath here and retest it, I think I'd be very, very difficult to hold off trading that short. So that's what I'm looking for on pound Kiwi. The only other one that really has my attention is also pound based, and this one's pound yen. This could happen as early as 1 minute 47 and 33 seconds from now, because if this candle were to close, I'd really like it to close above the daily pivot, if not on the monthly pivot. That would be ideal. If that was the case, I would definitely take a short under here. The problem I'm going to have is I'm going to have to take a poor reward for the first take profit, because I've got to take profit at DS1 and just about the weekly pivot level. But thereafter, I think we've got a good shot at this going short around probably around 141 mark, maybe even lower than that if we get a good ride. So it's pound based, and I'm bearish the pound against the yen. I think we've got a pretty good shot. If this candle remains bullish and closes up here somewhere, then I will place that order, but I'll take profit before the weekly pivot. And I think I've got to give pound Kiwi a little bit more room, but I'd love to see it up here and then duck back underneath that line and retest it. I think that would be the go. So, mate, question mark on the Aussie pairs, but I am willing to maintain my bearish bias. Oh, one other Euro Kiwi. The bad karma continued on that one as well, where for whatever reason I've got absolutely no idea what caused this pound candle here to form, because this was due to break short, in my humble opinion. But it didn't, and I copped another partial loss there. So against my what I call this pattern the prickly pair, right? Because we've got a high test bar followed by a low test bar. I'm still giving this another shot, so I have replaced that order, and my stop loss is above that candle, as you can see. So if you want to follow this, the entry is at 1.6770, and I've got a 71 pip stop loss. I'm going to take first profit at 68 pips and remove a third of the position. And I'm going to take a second profit at 145 pips and close a second third and let the rest rip. There's absolutely nothing changed with my analysis here. We're still on a tear to the downside with a primary trend, and I'm still waiting for this retracement to end, of course. Probably the better entry would be allow this trend line to break, consolidate back underneath, then retest it, give us about the same entry level, and then go. It's a far safer way to take it, but we may not get that luxury. So I'm still here and ready to trade this short. So that pretty much summarizes me for the rest of the week, Ash. I don't think I'll be looking too far afield from what I've already just discussed, but that's busy. That's enough to keep me busy for the next few hours.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Well, the FTSE is moved.
Bring your mic down, mate.
Oh yeah. The FTSE has taken another leg down and leaves the trade around about 100 pips to the good. So anybody that managed to grab that yesterday, you're about 100 pips to the good. With possible profit taken on the trend line that we just saw as well. So you should still have another portion. I don't know how, what everybody's risk profile is, but you should have another portion running, and I'd let it run. It's a decent trade. You could tighten stops up maybe. I can show you the charts. Yeah, let's have a look. Where am I? Here. Let me show you this. So this is our entry point. We got in at 75.72, which was literally pretty much the highest possible point that you could have got in, and it's come down here. So we're say currently 100 pips to the good. I was suggesting taking profit around this area here, just before the market opened up. So you can now start to just I would tighten stops up to this point. I think that's plenty of room. Conversely, there is a little trend line that is. Let me tighten this up as well. There's a trend line just there that you could use, which still would give you enough space. You don't need a lot of room with this one, but just the way that things are, that with the markets, it might be worth just making sure that you do have something trailing. It doesn't necessarily matter where. And you don't want to put it too close with a situation like this, because there is still a likelihood of a down leg. I guess because of a Christine Lagarde statement later on, the market might pause a little bit, but the trend is definitely now well and truly established itself on a 4-hour chart, which is probably the better one to look at to the downside. So this monthly pivot is sitting around about another 50 or 60 pips below where we currently sit. So that would be the overall target just for right now. And when it gets down there, it doesn't mean that you have to take your full profit, but just have a look at the price action down there. Let it just try and get back up again, make another low, tighten, then start to tighten things up. But right here, I'll just give it a little bit of room and see how far low you can get it to go, because this, as I say, would be a decent target, which would be near enough around about 100. What would that be? 160 pips, from this point here right the way down. So a decent looking trade that if that eventually transpires. The measured move actually brings us a little bit lower, so it might even come down and give you another 30 or 40 pips from that point, giving you a 200 pip trade. So looking pretty good right now. So this one should make up for a lot, if not all, of the other trades that we took that were losers during this period here. Now we're starting to flow. Nice to see a trend in the market, and actually nice to be on board with it as well from the high side. So I would ride it as long as possible. But that would be me as well, mate. I don't really have a lot else. I think the FTSE is struggling today because of the pound. The Brexit bill got passed through Parliament yesterday, and looks like that might well be.
What does it actually mean, mate? What does
it means that we're definitely leaving on the 31st. Regardless, yeah, it can't be turned back.
Have we heard that before?
Yeah, well, the thing is that the sticking point before was Parliament. It was always Parliament. It was leaving because of Parliament, but Parliament have now voted on the deal and voted on this the withdrawal. So that will happen from here on in this. It would take an almighty shift in politics for that not to transpire now. So I suspect that's probably where we're headed now, mate. We're probably headed for an exit on the 31st of January, and it looks like that released the pound a little bit as well, and maybe with some of the numbers from the UK, the speculation that we were going to be lowering interest rates seems to have abated somewhat. I heard about a 50-50 chance of that happening now. So with that going on, it's suggesting some further upside with the pound, which is really what's pushing the FTSE lower more than anything else. If we kind of check across the board with some of the other markets, this the coronavirus is obviously a concern, but we don't see gold being bid. We do see the S&P easing a little bit to the downside, but if anything, that might be creating a topping pattern, but there's no guarantees with that as yet. 4-hour chart hasn't really given us a lower low in the same way that the FTSE has, so that's still holding on and looking stable at best, I suppose. The Dow Jones, a little bit of a different picture. That one looks like it may well have attempted to break to the downside. I don't think it's conclusive, but it does look a little bit weak up there. I think the yen is the fascinating one. You know, we were calling for this for quite a few days. It created a head and shoulders topping pattern, and it has fallen away as well. So there is certainly
Actually, I've
some.
nearly been triggered into that weekly trade. That got very close this morning.
Oh yeah, it's down here, isn't it, somewhere?
It is at 109.44.
4-4, yeah, very close then, yeah, yeah. So that is looking like it's certainly a risk-off sentiment, and as I say, the pound, strength will not help the FTSE any at all. WTI, huge drop yesterday in the end. That we were talking about WTI being able to hold this level, but it just wasn't able to do so. And given that, you got to suggest that WTI is still probably got some further room. Look at that move yesterday. And that's
I'm going to have to start trading this because it seems I can call this one okay. You'll recall going back probably 2 or 3 weeks ago where we got the Iran situation.
Yeah.
And yes, if you stick to the daily or weekly chart and go back to September of 2019, around about the 10th or 11th or something, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Was it the 11th? 9/11, really? Why didn't I draw that conclusion before? Maybe I did.
No, the 11th was a weekend, so it'd be the 10th or the 13th.
Yeah, it was, okay. But anyway, that's when they started firing bombs and rockets or whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was right. It was over the weekend, and the market gapped.
Yeah, that's right.
700 pips, was it, from memory?
What, on WCI?
It rallied, yeah.
It must be this one on the 8th, I'm guessing, because that's the big bar. Yeah, around about 630, yeah.
Yeah. So that really just repeated itself.
It
absolutely repeated itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I called that from the top actually, and didn't trade it.
Very nice. Yeah.
One thing analysing and calling the other thing trading is that 700 pips later. Wow. Yeehaw.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then the thing is, there seems to be a glut of supply as well from the United States with the shale scenario. So there seems to be a lot of, there's a lot of problems with oil and WTI. I don't know what's really going to give that a boost, to be quite honest. So it looks like that's got probably some further to run to the downside. Maybe all the way back down to 50.
Yeah, well, that's 57. I haven't looked at that level. What is that level? It is round about 51, really. 50.98, I think, is the next. Oh, hang on. No, that's not right. Yes, it is. 50.98 is what I've got as the bottom of that range. So I think you'd be fairly happy if you got all that. Anyway.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Would have been a tricky one, but it's an interesting one, oil, isn't it? Just the news seems it seemed to be in focus all of a sudden. I'm going to check out the COT report as well and see what traders were doing with oil. Let's have a look.
Pound's doing nothing, as we can see.
Yeah, quite quiet so far, isn't it? And I wonder whether we are waiting for Christine Lagarde. We've taken a little leg down with the FTSE 100, but it's paused for right now. But it's not looking good for the FTSE. It looks like the FTSE is going to continue to come and ease down. So, as I say, if you guys managed to get the trade with me yesterday, then stick in there, because it even some pops to the upside, I think, are going to get turned up a bit right now, especially if the United States markets make a topping pattern. Then we should be coming down.
Didn't speak about Christine Lagarde. We didn't talk about the euro, and I suppose that's why I didn't talk about the euro. It's very clear. The patterns are very clear to me, and this is under extreme pressure. But I'd much rather she tried to talk it up, or if she's going to.
Yeah, well, she may. She may. I don't think some of the numbers from some of the countries have been okay, but she may give it a go. I
What
don't
if
think
she
the
does?
guard is a
I'm
big.
ready to jump on it. I'm
I
ready to
don't-
jump on it short.
She's not a huge fan of QE as far as I'm aware. So she might try and dissuade all that kind of going on. Yeah, I'm just checking out the COT report, mate. So I'm a bit distracted. The it looks like the commercials here on oil. This is the commercials were short, but it wasn't a really obvious signal. It wasn't like this area here, which was a really obvious signal with the index at an extreme. I'm not sure why that was short there, which should have been. Yeah, I'm not going to garner much from that. Having not have much experience with reading COT report with oil, I'm actually looking at that with a little bit of complexity. But yeah, I don't have anything else, mate. I mean, it's, I don't want to kind of just drone on about nothing, but I don't really have a whole lot more apart from the trade that we're in that just needs that little bit of managing. But hopefully everybody's fairly clear on that. But that's really me for the day, buddy.
All right, mate. I'm happy with that. I've mapped out what I'm thinking of or looking to trade, so I don't think there's anything that we need to do more. I wouldn't have thought. And I keep, and if Mark's in the room, my apologies. I have been not beating the microphone like I should have been, but hopefully you can all hear me today and everything is okay. So yeah, look, let's call it quits and wish everybody who celebrates it a happy Chinese New Year, which they'll be celebrating over the next 7 or 8 days, I think, maybe even more. And the rest who don't celebrate the Chinese New Year, we'll wish you a wonderful weekend, and let's come back strong on. I've got a holiday here on Monday. There's a holiday in Singapore as well, I'm sure, but we'll be here, won't we, Ash?
We certainly will. Yeah, back same trade time, same trade channel on Monday, and do it all again next week. I think there's Chinese New Year coming up soon, isn't there? Is it next week or the week after?
Well, it's kind of started now. I think the reunions are probably on tonight, and I'm not 100% sure, to be fair, but I think it's imminent. And next week is all Chinese New Year. Yes.
Great stuff. All right, buddy. Okay, guys. Well, we'll see you then. Have a great week, and yes, we'll see you on Monday. See you in a few days' time. Have a great week and a great weekend. And same to you, buddy. Have a good one.
You too, mate. Take care, guys, and have fun. Bye for now. Yeah, happy long weekend too, Daniel. We've also got one in Australia. It's Australia Day on Sunday.
Oh, cool. Cool. Enjoy.
Okay, I promise.